you ever gotten somewhere in life and just wish you can go back and talk to the people that helped you get there? In today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, I talked to Nelson Sparks, one of my old managers, who helped me tremendously early on in my digital marketing career. Let's hop right in. So are they helping, like, do you just have to bring the content, like the rubric, or here's like course 1 and 2 and 3, and then they shoot everything for that?
Yeah, that's how we're doing it basically. And they'll also build out the website according to, functionality and structure the videos too, which is really nice. Where I can kind of go back and just do screen grabs or, take conversations like this, right?
Yeah.
And they'll kind of produce those into, content for me that I can continue to offer to the community after the fact, because that's ultimately what it is, right? I mean, everything within digital changes tomorrow, right? I mean, would we just see Thomas Berry was posting about the ads, right? And and that's the thing, is we all don't really have a community as digital marketers. Like we utilize so many different sources, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Twitter and all this stuff, and it gets so dizzying where, if we can have kind of an aggregation of resources and support, like can make for finding solutions a lot quicker, right? And a lot of the times what we find within the resources that are out there, like Facebook or Google, within their support systems, is they're very kind of they're directed towards their initiatives.
What's
right?
going to fuel their revenue?
Exactly, rather than what works. And that's the thing, is I think we saw at Google a lot of times, like, people trust you a hell of a lot more if you just provide quality, right?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe you don't need to spend on display yet because you're over here, as opposed to where maybe the sales side is like, oh yeah, dude, $1,000 a day display, $100 in search, you'll be good, right? Yeah. So it's more about generating, something in a course and material that's going to be of value to people. Yeah. And help them with that. And I think that's what, especially what I've seen from you guys so far, it's like you guys are trying to do a lot of the same thing with the podcast, which is really cool. Yeah. So that's why I definitely wanted to come chat with you about, what the capabilities were with you guys, and
so get that out there. What are they doing? So each course, is it you actually talking, or are they like...
It's a variable motif of teaching modules, basically, right? So yes, it is some of me talking. It's some PowerPoints that have slide shares with them. It really just kind of depends on, what the particular scenario is, right? If it's just kind of an introduction to basics, a lot of that stuff is just going to be PowerPoint situations, right? Like, slide by slide. This is how you log in. This is how you set up and create templates within, MailChimp, or, with any external mailing services, or... these are, the 5 things you should do before ever paying for digital, right? And it's just simple steps that the same thing we used to teach people, and right? A lot of that things comes from the quality. I know you started out selling Ad Express, I think, with as well, or did you just jump right into AdWords?
No, I think it was just AdWords.
Just right into AdWords? Well,
no, it was AdWords Express and then AdWords.
And I don't know if you remember all of the calls we used to get, but how, the reluctance wasn't about the help. It was that you're not with Google, right? Yeah. Even though we were calling from, Google ETO numbers and fixing it. And it was because of, they had been taken advantage of. And there was countless times where I'd hear somebody that, did I pay $2,000 to set up my Google Places page? Wow. It's like, are you serious? And they're like, oh yeah, they told me it was required. It's like, dude, we're going to do it for free and walk you through it and then help you even advertise, right? And that's something that people don't have a source to go to a lot of times within, or the sources that they do have are very medial, that don't ever grow upon, the skill sets. You got, AdWords for Dummies, right? That leaves you about, launching your campaign. Yeah. And those kind of things where, I want to strive to basically create that continual source of, material and value and community as well, where they can get and they can have opportunities, to sit down. Maybe we're not sitting down in studio, but, they can interact with, Facebook Lives or Google Lives or YouTube, any of those basically YouTube Live platforms, in order to make sure that you're really having points of contact to get insight, basically, right? Higher level insight that isn't coming from what an engineer is telling you. I love their products to death, and their algorithms are actually coming leaps and bounds. But the reality of it is, the human eye can still spot variances better than an algorithm can a lot of times, especially with that ads. And, just having that experience and, a community of people you can reach out to. And not only that, have that good solid structure built from is something that, I think can be very, very valuable within the marketplace, but also just, create and help evolve people, to take ownership of things. Like I just told you a second ago, I was like, one of the things I did before I started doing this course, I wanted to buy a metal shop, right?
Yeah.
That's a trade, right? Yeah. We don't have trades really anymore. Like there's trade schools like for niche stuff, right? You'll go out and you'll do, welding or, roofing or construction or something like that, which those are all great trades, but they're even getting into those businesses a lot of times, there's a huge financial input to go, start a roofing company or, even just go be a roofer. Yeah. There's a huge financial input to go get a hammer, a belt and all the tools that you need just to even go do your job, right? Where with digital marketing, you need a computer, right? But
the cost of entry is so low.
You could do a Chromebook, and I operated for a couple weeks off of one of those, right? Yep. It doesn't take a lot, and you can really create something that can provide for yourself, provide value, and find something that, from a trade point, that's one of the things that I love is that at the end of the day, you build something, you see the product of your work, right? And you see the value of it, and you see the quality of it too by the performance. And you can always optimize that and rate that and improve that, and it helps you. So, that's in my interpretation, AdWords and Google ads, Facebook, any mobile ad, digital ad preference is the modern day trade. Yeah. Right? Yep. And you got all your trade certifications, even with Facebook and Google certifications, right? But
Google has what, 9 now or something like that?
Lord, it's be a team
there's 3.
Anything. So, but yeah, I mean, it's that's the trade, and people they may shy away from doing some sort of, but the millennials need to look at that, or any age group at this point. Reality of it is because even a lot of the older generation maybe that is re-entering the workforce or something along those lines, right? Digital marketing, as well as I do, it's not a high level skill sets, right? It's understanding data. Yeah. If you can understand data, you can understand numbers, like if X equals Y, then it's going to equal it again, right? Yep. It's CPA, right? Amount of money you input, what your profit is on the product you sell, allows you to be input back in. If you can basically classify those numbers really quickly, everybody should be able to interpret that, no matter the age group, right? Yeah. And I think that's one of even the points behind the course is just to try it, understand it.
Even that, just helping identify what KPIs you actually look at. I hear so many times, it's let's look at, we served all these impressions, but it's okay, well, you had a horrible CTR and your cost per click was $18, and how many sales did it drive? So maybe you're looking at the wrong KPI. But yeah, I think to your point, and that's basically why we started all this, was there's so much out there where the small man is just being squeezed by agencies to create a Google business page for 15, that takes 10, 15 minutes. That's granted, you should make money off of that, but 1,500, I don't know if that's exactly. Yeah. And so that's what we want to do with the podcast, but you're taking a step further and actually making a course, an actual course. And do you have all the PowerPoints and all that figured out, or is that what you need help with too?
No, I've got all the training material. As you know, that's kind of what I love to do whenever I work at Google is.
So now it's just putting it together.
Yeah, so it's just basically putting it together and the content. And this is, I can get up and I can talk and I can write scripts and I can sell just about anything. But at the end of the day, video production, some of the creative aspects of it, I may do it as a hobby to try and figure out how to build a website. But, it's a time versus, reward kind of aspect of it, right? And you guys have this, $30,000 worth of cameras here, right? That's an investment that I don't need to make, and it's more valuable. And not only that, I had one of the D60s or 60Ds right there, man. And I didn't even make it through the owner's manual, halfway through the first page. So how am I supposed to go through and create all this? And I think that's even some of the value props that is some of the bonus material that'll be in the course as well, is like, how do you do your time? I mean, I love Tim Ferriss, like is one of my favorite authors because of it's that 80-20 rule, right? That may interest you, but why would you spend your time trying to figure out something you can pay somebody $20 for, where you could go earn $500 for the time you'd spend that, right?
They can attest. I've been preaching that if there's anything that we can do that might be cheaper to have someone else do it, it allows you to do something that it's more ROI positive, and it's just about where you're allocating your time. And then, I mean, that's how you either grow in 3 months or a year and a half. Is sure, you could do everything, but then there's time to learn, there's time to do this, and that's the power of the course. Is you can learn all this, but it might take you 5 years as a business owner, and even then, if you're taking away from sales and like what you're good at, like your business, then that starts suffering. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of business, is how can I hire someone to do it because they can get it done quicker, and then I can take that time to then go generate more revenue. And like, I
mean, at the end of the day, like the point of the course is one of two things. Like, I want you to walk away with it with enough skill sets and a community and a support system to go out and either run your own company's digital marketing or even start your own digital agency if you want, right? Or you already own a successful company. Now you can go talk to agencies. You can go talk to the people that are actually spending all this money and operating your business, and you can actually understand what the hell they're doing.
Ask the right questions to keep them on their toes. Like, why are we bidding that way? Or why? Yeah.
You start speaking their language, it kind of perks them up a little bit. They're like, now I got to go in detail. Oh, shit, right? Yep. And that's the thing that is around the course as well. It's you may not apply everything in it, but to have an understanding of how your business, when everything is transitioning to e-commerce as a whole, and the majority of industries have some sort of presence on e-commerce, like to not understand how you're going to spend a big proportion of your profits is asinine, right? Like, so as a business owner, like it's about utilizing some of the course, some of the material as to understand, the questions you should be asking, even the metrics that your people that you're paying money to drive your products and sell your products are talking about, right? You talk about KPI. I've said that probably 3 or 4 times in the last, 2 or 3 months, and I just get deer in headlights, right? And that's because it's a marketing term, right? KPI, but if you see, key metrics, key business metrics that's the layman's term of what it is, right? Then okay, that makes more sense. But then even metrics is a term that's kind of been rolled out through ad networks and Google. There's an entire section of the course that's all just about terms and vocabulary, because 90% of what it is there didn't exist 10 years ago. It's not in the dictionary. Ad groups wasn't a word before Google came up with it, right? So, even, ad sets, and understanding the differentiation between Facebook and Google marketing, and how, when they're talking to you, what that actually means, and at what level, within the actual campaign set is, and what impact it has is incredibly important to somebody whenever they're having a business meeting in mind. There's that whole statistics that basically when people are reading that, if they hit a word that they don't understand, then everything else is lost after it, right? Yeah, it's people, because they focus on that word, and they focus on trying to understand it rather than continuing to listen, right? And so you're causing blockages by sometimes using these marketing, and I've experienced this with clients on multiple times where it's, unfortunately, because of what it is and it didn't exist 10 years ago, it's the only word for it sometimes. So as a marketer or as just even a business owner, you need to understand how these actually relate back to real world terms. And there's a portion in that, right? It's the basics. It's, what's out there, what the terms are, how do these apply?
Why is it important?
Even just figuring basic metrics like your CPA. How do you figure ROI? Right? And what number should you be doing it? And what's gross ROI versus net ROI, right? Those typical business terms that isn't something that people are constantly talking about, because a lot of these business owners, they're either doing their business where they're dealing with a particular clientele which has a vocabulary vernacular that's probably not ad driven or developed by Google, right? And then you have an accountant at the end of the month that's telling you dollars and cents things and profit and loss numbers, which definitely don't typically coincide with any vernacular from your marketing initiatives, right? So you've got 3 different sources, and ultimately that one in the middle is what drives all the revenue and puts everything, but it's probably the least understood whenever in conversations, right? And that's what the course is designed to fix, and just help with that, and then give you a step-by-step growth where it's not just being dumped upon, right? And with no direction, because that's another thing that we on the net, dude. There's how many?
I'm sure everything in your course can be found online, but it's a matter of, where do I find it? Is that the right stuff? And should I learn this before this or this after? And like, it's just not, here you go, here's a blueprint. This is how you should learn it. This is how you're going to grow. And we're going to grow your knowledge. And basically you're going to grow into this so that you can have either run it yourself a little bit better, or else if you're that big to where you have a department or an agency, you can at least have a more intelligent conversation that is growing a business, rather than, wait, what are you even saying? What does that mean? Like that, there's so many meetings that I've been in where it's like, you're defining what you're even saying more than you're talking about the strategy or the performance impacts. And so, no, I love it.
Exactly. And I think that those basics are something that they can really gravitate to, and will set out as they go through those courses. Because think about how many times that you've launched into, thankfully with PPC, like if you can pass Google, you can pass MSN, Yahoo, and the other thing, right? But you thought about even whenever you first jumped into Twitter, you jump into Facebook, and some of the way that their ad structures are, right? They use different verbiage, and you have to become acquainted with that verbiage before you understand how to move forward. Except Google will throw you immediately into a certification test, right? And the quizzes, where they already immediately start using their vernacular without ever explaining it in detail, and leave it to the user to go use it, or to go figure out what the definitions are. And that's something that, if you don't have those solid building blocks, then, half of the basics are going to be lost on you. That's going to be in my course, and especially the immediate stuff. And then going and interacting with the community, sometimes people get overwhelmed, like by not being able to speak intelligently about things. They get, less confident.
They don't even ask the question. That could be the question that gives them the answer to flip a switch and what's going on.
Exactly. So this is designed to empower people at every level from within the digital agency, because that's where everything's going. There's not going to be a downturn in it. Mobile traffic is increasing, and a lot of that even is understanding quality. So if I can impress on users that I'm delivering them quality, the same principle should be applied to their own business as well. Maybe that'll trickle down a little bit, hopefully. But it's, I think what I see from everything within most business sectors is it's about cutting and cutting and cutting, and it's not from a performance section. It's usually because they don't understand how they're spending their money. Right? But they do over here, and I know this, so I'm comfortable staying over here, and I'll just pull back over here until I can figure this out. Right? But nobody ever bridges that gap for them.
And no one takes the time to help educate and get it figured out, which is just why there's still more money being spent on traditional TV ads and newspapers and all that. Because, dealing with even bigger budgets, it's even some of the bigger companies, it's like, I don't really know what you mean, so let's just not talk about it, move on to the next thing. And it's like, that's not how you grow.
And that's all great and all, for some companies, but at the end of the day,
that's not how you get from here to here.
You said that the key point, right, is it's that growth factor, right? You may not understand exactly how you're spending that money, but if you don't, then let's take some time back and you can ask some questions, right? But they're intimidated, or they don't have time because they're dealing with their business. Right. So it's our responsibility as marketers to be able to position it to them using scenarios and verbiage, and even their own internal numbers to help support what we do externally. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people, even from a marketing standpoint, don't understand how to get that through to business owners, right? And vice versa. Business owners don't know how to ask that. I've seen relationships deteriorated. I've seen relationships deteriorate because they're not asking the right questions, and the other side is, they're not asking for feedback in the right manner, right? It's more like, oh yeah, we're doing great here, we're doing great here, yes, this and this, but there's not like, do you understand what this actually means? Like, what's a view through conversions? Right? Like, show me how that's interacted, show me the steps on that. And a lot of ad agencies and even people within, especially within the sales realm, right? They jump right into, right, here's our value prop. They don't expand on it to even understand, like, do you understand we're making you money, right?
Yeah.
Do you understand the value in the service? You got to get that agreement before you can ever pitch ever again, right?
Yeah.
You got to get on common ground. And it's the same thing when you're talking about, you know, a sales side or a digital side is like, if the customer doesn't understand what the hell they're spending their money on, then they could be making $1 million a year, but you're not going to be able to get any more money out of them because they don't understand why.
Literally dealt with that at a place like grew ROI by like 13x, and it was from like 1 million to 13 million, and it just got overlooked because and it's like literally like that. I mean, that's huge. I mean, they saw, but again, it was, well, we don't know where it's coming from. And it's like, well, it's here in Google Analytics, but no one had that conversation. And
I mean, you know, it's funny analytics because it's like one of those analytics is almost one of those things that can open up the trap, you know, Pandora's box for some people. But, you know, there's even a portion within that talks about being able to, you know, relate back analytics and using your internal numbers to validate that, right? Yeah. Like I don't really talk about anything that's super, you know, special or super secretive. I don't have my secret sauce in there as far as my algorithm that's, you know, badass. It does all this, but it's just about understanding the data. Yeah. It's simplifying it where simple enough and to a level where you can validate it. Yeah. And then adding a layer on top of it. Okay, where's the discrepancies within that layer? Okay, cool. I've got those identified. Then you add another layer and you add another layer and you basically identify the parameters. And as long as you're consistent across all that, and you move forward, then it doesn't matter if the numbers are off because all I'm worried about is the growth percentages of cross-sec, right?
It'll never be a direct one-to-one. Yeah. But as long as it's directional, like every time, if it's 2% off every time it's 2% off, but as long as that number's going up, we know that we're going.
Like I have one that we were talking about, like showed, you know, double-digit growth month over month for like, you know, 9 months. Easily, right? Actually, it was 10 months, 11 months. And then we did a little test, right? Where we're like, oh, well, organic, we had a theory that organic would just carry everything. Yeah. Then all of a sudden we saw 0.3% growth, 0.03% growth, right? Over the course of the 2 months, right? So there's no growth. And you know, there's a back end argument to understand kind of sales cycles and things like that, you know, and growth patterns. But at the end of the day, like if, you know, 1 + 1 = 2, that's going to be the same tomorrow. Yeah. Right. Yep. And it's not going to change. And I think that's what, you know, I wanted to impact with this course more than anything was just that, like, it's not high level, and this isn't a sales pitch. Like I did sales for, you know, 15 years before I ever got into digital marketing, everything from the, you know, working for MCI to, you know, selling timeshares in Branson, Missouri. Like I did it all. And banking too. That was great. So I've done sales in every aspect of it. And that was one of the things that really, I even gravitated towards Google whenever I started working at AdWords Express, because I didn't have to sell anymore. They're numbers. These are what you sold. Like you've got your sales. You can't argue with that. You got the money in the bank, right? So now we just reverse engineer it where they came from. Yep. And I've got the data and the data points to show you where that is.
It's the beauty about analytics. You don't have to sell. You did this. It resulted into this. How much more do you want? Cool. It'll cost you this much. It's very, very, very simple. I mean, we got to kind of wrap it up.
I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I look forward to kind of expanding on this, man. And I congratulate you guys on your new office at EIC. Thank you. I think it's badass. You know, I'm real proud of you, man. Like I really think that
you were one of my first managers, man. You taught me a lot of what I know.
Well,
you like Thomas Berry,
dude. I appreciate like you busting out here and, you know, freaking grinding.